从今天早上到现在，城管一趟没来清，昨天来2趟，前天来8趟，大前天来10趟，是不是好消息？
进来了，整个商场没有什么人，这么大个店子里面一个人都没有。到他店这里来了，生意好不好？生意好不好？啊？卖了多少钱了？
啊，
卖了多少钱？100多有没有？
有，
卖了100多。
平均100还200块。
一个月租金7000，一天卖100-200。啊？搞不下去了。
The president talking about China, China's relationship with Hong Kong, and really the tensions increasing between the U.S. and China. We're back with the panel. Chuck, significant ratcheting up here?
I think so. I think it's a real watershed that, at least in symbolic terms, a lot of the details have not really been revealed yet. They are, lumping Hong Kong back together with the rest of mainland China and kind of abrogating this two-track approach the United States had to customs and tariffs with that territory on the basis of a belief that China has reneged on its commitments. That is a huge moment. It's got implications for all sorts of things, including the future of Taiwan. And it's, China has really until about September to fill in the blanks on its policy change. It's going to be very important to see what response they fill in there.
Harold, the markets hated the mention of China yesterday afternoon, kind of rolled with it today. It's obviously an economic concern when looking at the future between U.S. and China.
When the president didn't talk about any trade deals, any rolling back of anything, I think the market calmed itself a bit. Look, he's right to do this. I'm not convinced that withdrawing money and withdrawing support for the WHO during a pandemic is a smart thing, but I support a lot of what he's doing here. I do hope he decides to be more consistent here, because when peaceful protesters in Hong Kong who were beaten, we didn't speak up. I'm glad to hear the president speaking more forcefully, and I've always been a believer that we need to take a little harsher posture towards China.
I work nearly every day with partners around the world who understand the risk that is presented from the Chinese Communist Party, whether it's my Australian counterparts or my partners in Europe. They have all come to see the risk to their countries, to freedom, to democracy, to the rule of law that is presented by the Chinese Communist Party. And we're going to lay out a detailed plan to make sure that we protect the American people. President Trump has been serious about this and has taken important measures to protect the American people.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA. Go SpaceX. Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America. Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon separation confirmed.
What a day for both NASA, SpaceX, and Elon Musk. What he has been able to accomplish in just a few short years. There were a lot of people who didn't think he would be able to do it. Now his company has become the first to put astronauts from any country into orbit.
All right, we just got word that reporters have been called into the White House right now. The president is meeting with business leaders, talking about not only the coronavirus and coming through this, but the China crackdown. We don't know the details, by the way, of that China crackdown. All of this, as the president is under a lot of scrutiny now as well about not only how he deals with China, but how he's going to respond to the developments in Minneapolis. Here to sort it all out for us is Carl Rove, the former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, best-selling author, much, much more. Carl, this whole situation with China, first off, the president seems to be signaling it won't be business as usual, but he did hold out the possibility when it comes to that trade deal. Well, that will be usual. He's not ripping that one up. I'm taking that leap. So there might be other factors at play here. But what did you make of his comments?
Well, I thought that they were a good start. Let's look at them. What he said was that he was going to secure university funding by suspending the entry of certain individuals who might be considered security risks. We know the Chinese have been flooding our American research universities with people whose job it is to collect information and take it home, and this signals that that ain't going to continue. Second of all, this Hong Kong special status, this could be the biggest thing of the day, because the United States treats Hong Kong as different and apart from mainland China. And if we remove those provisions, this is going to shrink the role of the Hong Kong capital markets. And it's going to, we've already seen a great many companies moving out of Hong Kong. We're likely to see even more. Then this is going to be really interesting. We allow Chinese companies listed on the U.S. stock exchanges to abide by a different set of rules for accounting practices. We don't require the same kind of practices of Chinese companies as we do of American or other foreign companies. And he said that's going to stop. And then, of course, then we had the World Health Organization statement, which, while it's separate and apart from China, is nonetheless linked to it, because the president's point was China gives $40 million, we give $450 million, but they run the WHO, and we've told the WHO to make reforms, and they've refused to make those reforms. So if they're going to refuse to make those reforms, we're going to refuse to send them that money. We'll send it to other international health organizations where we'll have an impact. Big changes.
No, we'll see. He did weigh China's sanctions, but won't quit the phase one deal. I'm talking the trade deal. He did weigh as well, and you touched on it, Carl, suspending entry for Chinese foreign nationals whom the U.S. could view as a security risk, extended that to the possibility of also limiting the number of Chinese students that would be allowed into this country. So a lot we don't know. But obviously he's cognizant of not wanting to damage us economically. It is a tough balance, huh?
Oh, it is, because look, what's provoking this? It is that China is violating the commitment that it made to the world community that there would be one country, China and Hong Kong together, but two systems, a democratic Hong Kong and then a communist state in mainland China, and that would exist for 50 years after the Brits left Hong Kong and returned control of it to. Now, they're violating that. So the president needs to have a measured response to it. He can't let that go without anything. But on the other hand, he shouldn't get rid of everything. So he is taking, and my suspicion is these are the first of 3 or 4 steps that he's going to, these 3 or 4 steps, depending on how you count it, are the first of what are going to be many steps that they're going to take to ratchet up against China. Let's recognize that China is our adversary. They're not our enemy, but they're our adversary and rival who want to create the military strength to deny the Western Pacific to us and the scientific strength to dominate the scientific high points, the commanding heights, if you will, of 5G, autonomous vehicles, quantum computing, and so forth for the 21st century. So they're looking explicitly to knock the U.S. out of its position of dominance, and we better wake up and deal with it. And I think these are good measured steps by the president in response to Hong Kong. I hope there are more measured steps, but there's no need to junk the entire relationship. Just continue to, if they do bad things, respond accordingly.
All right, well put. Good seeing you, Carl. Thank you very much. Carl Rowe.
Sky News can reveal, just 10 days before the first case of COVID-19, the Chinese government gave Shi Zhengli's laboratory permission to engage in experimental activities with even more dangerous pathogens. Experts at Flinders University and La Trobe say 2 coronaviruses could have combined to create COVID-19 in a lab.
One of the possibilities is that an animal host was infected by 2 coronaviruses at the same time, and COVID-19 is the progeny of that interaction between the 2 viruses. The same process can happen in a Petri dish. In other words, COVID-19 could have been created from that recombination event in an animal host, or it could have occurred in a cell culture, experiment.
The full explanation of this is highly technical, but there are 2 key points. First, the virus binds more strongly to human cells than animals, including bats. Second, it is something its genetically closest virus in bats doesn't have, a technical term, what's known as a furin cleavage site, and that makes it significantly more infectious.
Andrew, I'll just read you this little bit from the Global Times article about yourself, Kimberly and James. And this is typical Chinese propaganda. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. And it says, it asserts, there are 3 reasons behind Australia's rising anti-Chinese racism. So they're calling it racism, what standing up for sovereignty is all about. And they say, to begin with, white Australia has remained at the core of Australia's national identity. The country has gradually tilted towards the US to look for more social identification in being white. Second, many Australians believe COVID-19 originated in China. Yes, and they may discriminate against the Chinese because they ignorantly believe it's the Chinese people who spread the virus. Well, nobody believes that. And third, Australia has always discriminated against Asians, especially Chinese. This is the Communist Party of China trying to whip up race hatred.
Well, that's it's an effective way to attack people like me and others, is to suggest that we're racist. put the lens of identity politics over the top of all of this and delegitimise our views, which are quite legitimately held. It's ultimately about Australian sovereignty, which includes our strategic freedom of action, our ability to govern ourselves in accordance with our values and traditions, and to pursue our interests around the world without interference from other countries. So there's nothing wrong with that, and to suggest that it's somehow motivated by race is an effective way of attacking.
China is continuing to build up its military presence along the line of actual control in Ladakh and has begun to deploy artillery and armored units, that is tanks, very close to the line of actual control. And from these artillery and tank positions, it can easily reach Indian positions in a couple of hours or less.
They're never going to be able to get a job. They're never going to be able to finish high school, and they don't care. They understand this is the fight for a universal value, for freedom and democracy. Right there, what he advocated would make his life, would make the life of people in China, mainland China, harder. They don't care because he says that's all noise. The signal is take down CCP, right? That's why this is a historic moment. If you don't think this is 1938, you're kidding yourself. It is 1938. And what you saw with Donald Trump today, you know what? He said, guess what? I'm not going to be Neville Chamberlain, right? I'm not going to be Neville Chamberlain. The West made that mistake in the 1930s. Now we've got a depression on top of a pandemic, on top of an economic inferno, on top of a geopolitical crisis. It's all the 1930s compressed into one period of time. He could take the easy way out. He could take the Biden way out. We try to be very even-handed on this show. We try to go out. We're hardcore partisans. We try to go out of our way to try to balance this. On this one, there's no balance. There's just not. This is globalist versus nationalist. This is Joe Biden is infected, and this is what I do blame the Bernie movement for the following. 2 pillow fights back to back. The pillow fight with Hillary Clinton in 2016 and the pillow fight with Joe Biden. Note to self, please, the Bernie bros and the AOCs, you got to write this down. Write this down. It's a knife fight, not a pillow fight. Okay? You're trying to take control and have power in the most powerful country in the history of mankind. Okay? If you're going to fight, fight. Take a lesson from the high school kids in China. I want that tape played on a roll on our site. I want it just to be on a constant roll. Just take that lesson from people 16 and 17 years old, what they have to show us. It is a direct link, an unbroken chain back to the Patriots of 1775. That's what I kept saying in June of last year. When these kids first started getting tear gas, I said, oh, my Lord, they're Hong Kong kids. All they care about is money. And it turns out they had very deep spiritual values. They had read the philosophy of the founding fathers. On top of that, they had seen Red Dawn. They had both the yin and the yang of American culture, from the sublime to the less sublime. Okay? But they got it and they put it in there because actually Red Dawn is quite a deep picture film too, if you think about it, what those kids stood for. And now I want to, because of my tirades, we're not going to be able to get to everybody today, but I'm trying to contextualize. What Wong did, I could hug Wong. Mr. Bannon, you say this all the time, many noises, few signals. Okay, Wong, thank you. You're going to be a co-host before too long. Many noises, he's summed up. There are many noises, there are few signals. Here's our signal.
共产党是天下最迷信的党。五星红旗立东方，你看到红旗了吗？红色就是鲜血，血染的红绫。权力，老百姓就是红色，这就是我的臣民，我的奴隶。然后火生土，啊，土什么颜色？是黄和金啊，就金色，咱们叫黄，是黄。金色的五星，五星是4个星绕过来是月亮，中间一个星是太阳，4星影太阳，4星影太阳啊。围绕了4个星星，太阳什么5行，金木水火土。共产党老大 在旗的一角上，它叫做旗轴啊。不管这个旗怎么摆，你看它那个旗的角这块，那块就一直是不动的，哒，后面一直啪风在那摆啊，4星围着一个星啊。但是我听过一个欧洲的领导人说过，他说共产党忘了，你再牛，你那个星的位置很小的，绝大多数还是老百姓的权利啊。讲得好啊，他的迷信风水，红色血染的乌纱帽啊，红绫啊。所有的火生土，土生万物，你看到没有？所以说共产党就知道这个旗不沾血，这个政权就不稳，所以他经常要杀点人，什么8964啊、大跃进呐、香港啊，是吧？维稳呐，经常要死人啊！包括那四川一地震、汶川地震，死了几十万人，马上温家宝就说了啊，多难兴邦，是吧？多死人，咱这红旗就更加飘荡。所以我现在我对这个红旗我非常反感，我跟你说实在的，啊，但是这个五行当中的火生土，它土太少了，土生万物，它那个土就那一点点土，它只代表所有的一切以党为核心啊，所以这个旗子要更换，现在整个运气不在这里。